Okay, well, hello everyone. Thank you for watching this video. I'm so excited. My name is Maps, and I'm the founder of Arts and Universe. And we're here today with Erica Hornthal. I'm so excited to meet her today. She is recognized as the therapist who moves you. She's a dance and movement therapist, and she's also an author for the book Body Aware. I'm so excited to have you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited to be at ArtScent.
Yay! I'm so excited. Well, I'm just gonna ask you some questions today. I'm very intrigued about what being a dance therapist is and movement therapist. And one of the biggest things about art zen is I want to use science to prove that art is good for you, and it's a really good way to find joy, find balance, and just kind of like take a breath from the day to day. Like everyone is always rushing, so it's nice to just like take a deep breath and kind of just like recollect yourself. And however that might be art, that might be painting, dancing, moving, like whatever um they feel good with. So the first thing I'm going to ask you today is, what is dance and movement therapy?
Thank you for asking. Dance movement therapy is a psychotherapy that utilizes body awareness, nonverbal communication, elements of dance, really any nonverbal movement expression, right, that helps facilitate, process, integrate mind, body, soul. It also does, for many practitioners, marry an element of talk therapy. So it really is this holistic approach to mental health that allows us to talk through, but also move through things that may be occurring, whether it's circumstantial, maybe it's attachment, relational, interpersonal. All of it is not just something we speak about, but it's something we move through, something we experience on a body level. And so dance movement therapy is really interested in bringing all of that communication into the therapeutic relationship.
Whoa, that's so cool. What's like what would like a regular session look like for you, for example?
So that's an interesting question because no session is really like another session.
Yeah.
um, I do have similarities, especially when it comes to a first session, what we call like an intake session.
Hmm.
But I think the commonality between all sessions is a continual check in of the felt experience of our body, the movement of our body, the posturing and the gesturing as it
Interesting.
concerns behaviors, thoughts, right, arise in the therapeutic session, right, in the alliance or the relationship. So oftentimes it is, a brief check-in of how are you moving today? What are you noticing about what you're carrying in your body? Are you aware of your body? I will always oftentimes just let the client take the lead in terms of what they want to discuss. It's very conditioned in us to just kind of come in, sit down, and start talking about our quote problems, right? And so if that's familiar and we want to start there, that's fine. What I'll look to do is add some movement as metaphor or movement as symbolism or a way to help integrate into the body what I'm hearing, themes, topics, concerns. And I guess I should say, as well as using movement to help create capacity and regulation in the body. So if I'm noticing that a client is talking and starting to get very overwhelmed and spiraling and kind of repetitive in their story, with permission I can put a pause on things and we can quite literally interrupt the thought pattern and re-establish or rewire it through moving differently.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's so cool. I love that you use movement kind of like as a way of expression too. Like I know a lot of dancers have this issue where it's like I can't really tell you how to describe it, but here's a move for it. Like I that really reminds me a lot of like choreography and kind of just like getting in the mood of like not expression through movement and dance and everything. Like that's so fun. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. um so who are generally people that would take movement or dance therapy? Like, can anyone do it, or is that something that um it's like recommended to a specific type of audience?
Just like mental health in general, psychotherapy in general, it's made for anyone. We always joke that it's for anybody with a body, because it's
I
like,
love
oh,
that.
like that's everybody. That would be like saying psychotherapy is for anybody with a mind, so it's like
I
it
love
does
that.
apply to
Yeah.
anybody. I think in traditional talk therapy, we might say, oh, it's for someone, that is really in touch with their emotions, or on the other end of the spectrum, someone that's not in touch with their emotions,
Mm-hmm.
someone that really likes to talk about things. On the other hand, it's actually meant for people who can't really talk about things. So I've noticed a pattern in the people that I get to work with. Either it tends to be someone who has reached a plateau in traditional forms of therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, doesn't have the words or ran out of the words to speak about what they're experiencing. It could be 15 plus years, and their thoughts are, why am I still here? Why am I still doing this? Why are the same things still happening if I've processed it to death?
Mm-hmm.
Because our narratives live in our body. If we're not changing the way we move, then we're not really changing the way we think.
Yeah.
So people that have reached a plateau, individuals have a hard time expressing themselves verbally.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be people who are nonverbal, so people who quite literally don't have the language, the traditional language skills that we look for in like a talk therapy setting.
Yeah.
Or yeah, someone that doesn't have the access to traditional language, right? So someone that has a hard time expressing themselves through language, but someone who cognitively or developmentally does not have access to traditional forms of language.
Mm-hmm.
That's been kind of the trifecta, like the three areas, when people will tend to go towards a creative arts therapy. um you know Again, I think it's for everybody, because we are all movers, we're all thinkers. Thought comes from movement. So if you're an overthinker, or you're having a really challenging time changing your thought patterns, it would benefit everyone to work with someone who can help them repattern their movement patterns.
Well, that's so interesting. So, how, just in terms of like that idea of like, okay, I'm stuck in a thought, or I'm stuck in a pattern, how, what's like your favorite way to kind of like analyze that movement and kind of showing someone into a different movement?
So unlike, body language experts or movement coaches, I mean, some movement coaches might do this, but
Yeah.
it is, rather than it being prescriptive,
Mm-hmm.
and not just interventional, the
Yeah.
assessment piece is actually, for me, really putting it on the individual, or client in this case. And I want to create as much awareness as possible. So it really starts with that question of like, how are you moving? If I
Wow.
notice that we're in this story, or I've heard the story before, or they've told it before, they might even say like, this happens all the time, or here we are again.
Mhm.
So we want to bring awareness to either how we're currently moving as I'm retelling this story, or I'm talking about this challenge,
Yeah.
or think about, put yourself in that position. You're talking about this experience. Can you remember how you moved when you were in this conflict? And at first glance, people sometimes will brush it off, like, I don't know, so I'm like, okay, just
Yeah.
just sit with it for a moment. Like, you don't have to have the answer right away.
Mhm.
um Bring it to the forefront of your mind, or we can role play. We can kind of play it out. I did this with a client the other day. I said, think of this situation, and it's right in front of you, and I even put like a yoga ball or something to like represent the conflict so they could look at it. And we just played with like, do you want to move towards it? Do you want to move away from it? How do you want to interact with this thing? What does your body do? How are you moving in relationship to this issue?
Yeah.
And so once we identify that, we're like, I'm frozen, I'm 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 vibrating, I feel this, surge of energy, I'm warm, like whatever the sensation underneath the behavior is, there's a rhythm to it. We can identify it, we can move with that, right? Kind of meet it in the moment, and then we can shift through that, right? So, and again, I really put it on the client. I'm like, move in whatever way your body wants to, you know. So, as an example, let's just say I'm noticed like they're starting to shake their hands, or I'm
Yeah.
noticing, you know, some wiggling or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I might do it with them, you know, and kind of mirror that for them. We're shaking, and it just morphs naturally. It might go to this, it might slow down, it might become bigger, smaller. You know, it's again letting the body speak, right? It's
Yeah.
like we stop the words and we're like, just let your body do the talking for a moment. And then
Hmm.
we can reflect on that, you know. So we started here, we ended here, right? The ending point was this motion. How does that feel for you? Like, oh, so inviting. Oh, so relaxing. Oh, I don't do that enough. I'm like, okay, we'll make a
Yeah.
conscious effort to do that movement more often. Or when you're
Yeah.
in face of that conflict again, bring in this movement because it will help expand your capacity, right? It'll help you move through that issue or concern. It's identifying the rhythms of life as they emerge, and either expanding them or giving more life to those because that's what we need, or recognizing this is not helpful. I actually need to modulate, right, or transition into something more helpful, more energizing, more healthy. So again, it's never the same thing. It's so hard to be like, this is what
Yeah.
we do, this is what it looks like. It's really
I
learning
love
to
that.
listen to the rhythm of the body and like
Yeah.
letting the body do the work in the moment.
Yeah. I love that. I love that idea that like I've seen this a lot, of course, but it's like the idea that everyone really does have like their own movement, their own rhythm, and like every body has like its own specialty. It's almost like, right,
Mhm.
everyone's like perfect in their own movement a little bit.
Mhm.
Which is so lovely. Like I love that idea of just like it's so funny. I think that we talked about this before, how like humans have gotten so much into their minds that like we've kind of forgotten a little bit that like, you know, we are animals, we are mammals still, and like how it is exactly how like in Animal Planet they would describe like, you know, this is how a cheetah moves and stuff.
Right.
This is how
Notice the
every cheetah has their own movement. Like it's so beautiful to see.
right. Notice the
Um,
human being as it approaches the water cooler. You know, like
Yeah,
we don't see
exactly. We
documentaries
don't
like
think about
that.
that, you know, and it's so silly because I'm like, I kind of wish that we did that more, you know, like kind of remind
Yeah.
ourselves like, hey, like you're still animal in movement and in motion, and it affects so much of how you move in life, you know, like it's like your body is doing a movement if you're feeling a certain way, like that's it has a reason. So
Right.
that's just so beautiful to like just see kind of like the behind the scenes a little bit from like a therapist. Like this is so cool. Um,
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We're just so tied to our intellect and our cognitive abilities, which do set us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom. But I was gonna say it's not a superpower. It's not really the right word. Like it's not the only it's not so much what sets us apart. We have to also remember what makes us similar, you know, because then we like without getting too like existential, it's like I keep
yeah.
saying we're out evolving
Hmm.
our humanity, and that means like not moving in ways that we need to, not just for survival, but you know, to be regulated and to just be, right? We don't always have to do something. We're not even comfortable being anymore because we're not comfortable in our movement. We're not comfortable in our own skin. You know,
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what animals are thinking, but I don't know that they experience the same way, you know, the same judgment on movement the way we do because it's perceived a certain way. People judge it, people tell us how to move. You know, we just have to like claim movement. You just move. It's everybody has their own movement signature. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually perfect because I was actually gonna ask you like how do you, because of that same idea that humans have also like humans have been dancing like since nobody knows. Like we've just been dancing for so long that nobody knows. It's like music. Like where did it come from? We don't
Mm.
know. It's been there for our entire existence. So how do you like to go about, like, let's say someone that's like, I don't dance. Like, no, I I don't do that. Movement is not my thing. How would you like help people kind of like get over the hump of like, no, you do move like that, like when you tap your foot when your favorite song comes on, like that's dancing. Like you don't have to have a professional like career in dancing. You don't have to be going through like all the studio classes every weekend and stuff. Like how do you kind of get over that?
Yeah, I mean, to speak to that just real quickly, dance movement therapists aren't even those people. I did not start my career off as a professional dancer. I love dance. I've danced on and off my whole life, but we are not even expected to be professional dancers. That's a very specific role, and honestly,
That's awesome.
in many ways, very separate from the work of dance movement therapy. So that's one thing where people are like, wait a minute, you're not even a professional dancer? You don't have a degree in dance? And I'm like, no, no, I have a degree in dance movement therapy, but no, I don't have a degree in performance art. I don't have a degree in dance education. So it almost gives them permission to show up because they're like, wait, the expert in the room doesn't even have that degree. Okay.
I love
Maybe it's not as
that.
scary.
Yeah.
Um, a couple things like as I've been working, I'm really trying to make dance and movement more accessible to the everyday person because it is accessible. Again, we've just created these conditionings and definitions that don't work for us anymore. So I redefine dance, which ironically is the definition that you can find online. I think Britannica actually defines dance as rhythmic body movement or rhythmic movement of the body that expresses a thought or an idea. So when I, talk to a group of people and I'm like, this is the definition I'm working with. Are you a dancer? And they're like, well, my body does move rhythmically in some way. You didn't say choreography, you didn't say performance, you didn't say skill or technique. And I do express thoughts or ideas. And like, I guess I could be a dancer when it comes to that definition. The other thing is I am the type of dance movement therapist that actually doesn't really focus on dance. I've really tried to hone in on that word movement. And so then when we talk about like, how are you moving? Movement is in everything. Neurons are dancing inside of us right now. So I joke that like everyone has a dancer inside of them. Um, when you demysticize, if that's a word I can use, and take the assumptions and the judgments away in terms of what we have grown to think dance is, it's not as scary. It's like, oh, well, if, quote, dance is life, then I'm dancing every day. I danced
Yeah.
with my boss yesterday when we fought, he wanted
Yeah.
this, I wanted that. There's this push and pull. There is a choreography, right? A rhythm to everything. Um, that
That's
makes it
beautiful.
more
Love this.
applicable. Yeah, it makes it more applicable. And then
Yeah.
people kind of surprise themselves when they actually want to move because they realize they're already doing it. Even a
Hmm.
freeze, there's still movement in a freeze.
Yeah.
We'll talk about, the movements we really liked as kids. Oh, we were swinging, jumping, swaying, twirling. So it's also about like engaging the inner child, like the rhythms of the inner child. And then we're
Yeah.
like, oh, I forgot what this felt like. Lastly, for a lot of people who do have that like hesitancy or resistance to movement or dance, um, I go back to art. Like I will just encourage them to take a pen and paper, or I'm looking because I have them on my desk, markers, crayons, and just paper to pen, start moving your hand. It's like dance with the paper and whatever element you've chosen to use on the paper. We can take that drawing, the swirls, whatever it looks like, and then put that in the body. Right. So we're like, see, like you've created movement. There's a dance here that we're looking at, and then we can put it in our body and actually walk it in the room. or map it out on the floor.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I love this so much. Thank you, thank you. Um, sorry, I
Yeah.
looking at my questions here, but okay, so uh yeah, as you mentioned, like movement in terms of like it can definitely bring like relaxation and you can obviously like when you're tense, like you feel it in your body, right? Like you feel it at many different areas. You're tight, you can't move, or you're like you say, like vibrating, shaking, or if you're nervous, etc. Like your body really shows that
Mm,
all but like for example, so when someone inherently, I guess you said like dance is still a sport, right? So like if you were like, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna dance or move around for an hour, it's you still it's kind of like a sport, right? Like depending on the way you're moving, you can kind of um you can see that it feels good afterward. Like you can
mm,
tell, like you're saying your clients would go to a session and they'd be like, wow, I forgot that this feels so good. This feels so nice. And I'd
mhm,
forgotten about it. So what's kind of a little bit of the science behind that? Like what is happening in your brain when you're going out for a walk or going, okay, I'm tense, let me just go take a deep breath, let me go sit and like take a deep breath, stay still for an hour, or like I'm going to go dance for a little bit, like play your song, whatever, do whatever, in terms of like finding that thing that would bring you to that, back to I call it balance, but it's kind of just
mhm.
like, like your ground zero of like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm normal again.
yeah, yeah.
um
Like movement precedes thought. It always has. Thought obviously creates more movement, and then it's just this cycle, right?
yeah.
But I think we forget that in order for thought, especially to be conscious thought, there is a movement that has to, or sensation and input, right, that has to happen before that.
Mhm.
So dance is quite honestly the fastest way to state shift, to shift the internal parts, right? We've got all of the like I want to say the shuns, the digestion, respiration, perspiration, interoception, perception, like all the sensations. It accesses all of that, and it doesn't have to be big dancing. It doesn't have to be choreographed or skillful, because actually sometimes like that gets in the way if it's prescriptive or someone's showing us or telling us what to do. But
Yeah.
it's really the fastest way to state shift, so because it is moving things inside of us, the hormones are shifting, right? The chemicals are shifting, respiration is changing. So something as simple as like go outside and take a walk could be the very thing we need, especially if we are trying to think our way out of something, because there's not necessarily going to be a physiological state shift in the thinking, but there will be in the movement.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean you don't have to break a sweat, you don't have to go run on a treadmill, you just
Yeah.
have to move differently, so like getting back to nature, going outside, taking a brief
Yeah.
walk, um shaking your body, lifting your body, jumping, tapping something, right? Like
Yeah.
tapping into these rhythms of our body releases, right, different chemicals and quite literally shifts our state of being, but also our state of mind. So without getting like too wordy and like jargony in science, I think it's just so important that people know like movement precedes thought. If you want to change thought, you just have to move differently, interrupt the flow of things.
Mhm.
And physiologically, that is how your body is capable of moving through these really heavy, sometimes kind of dark places for people.
Yeah, truly, truly. That's wonderful. That's also really interesting to hear. Like it's great. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, also like emotions are energy in motion, really, right? So like we talked
Yeah.
about, oh, I want to feel differently. Feelings are like feelings are construct of the mind. So if I say, I'm
Mhm.
sad, our body doesn't speak sadness, right? There are emotions, rhythms, patterns, sensations that might go along with sad. Maybe
Yeah.
something's heavy, constricted,
Yeah.
slower, lethargic.
Yeah.
So it's also trying to move the energy or shift the energy. And again, how do we do that? We move the body.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What's your favorite thing about being a dance movement therapist?
I mean, from a like work perspective, like personal perspective too, I like the creative flow. It's not the same every day.
Yeah.
Working with the same clients is still different week to week.
Yeah.
I have permission to move around. I have permission to interrupt the session for, creative exploration, not personally, but like, hey, let's try this, right? Let's get up and move over here.
Mhm.
Let's retell the story in a different way. I think clinically, what keeps me returning and what I love so much about this perspective and this type of work is the change that we get to experience in real time. Like talk therapy obviously has enlightened moments and, the aha moments. But, when you see someone experience it in their body and you see the change in real time,
Mhm.
they have a new look on life. They have a new perspective. Yeah, it's like I guess like not saying that they're children, but like when you have those teaching moments,
Yeah.
someone's learning something for the first time, which you don't have to be a child doing that, but
Yeah, for sure.
it feels nourishing for both of us. It's like they get relief and information, and I get to know like, oh, we broke through, right? Like we've made a
Mhm.
difference. This is clearly going to impact them for the rest of their life in a way where you're never really the same. Like once you know something, you can't really unknow it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Seriously, I mean, knowledge is power. So it's great. And obviously this is why I do this, because I know that sharing this type of information, like everyone, it's so good for you and it's so beneficial and it's so
Mm.
enlightening a little bit, of like, knowing how important this all is and like just movement in general. And that's so beautiful. I'm happy to hear that it helps a lot of people.
Yeah, and I just go back to like the simplicity of it. It's like I don't sometimes I don't feel like I'm teaching anything. Well, I know it's not new. I mean, maybe my take and my perspective is like my own,
Yeah.
but it's like we've complicated things so much that I'm just like, I'm
Yeah.
over here to the shallow end, like
Yeah.
you are barely breathing in the deep end with your deadlines, your technology, and like that's great. I'm not knocking all of it. Some of it has been extremely useful and helpful, right?
Hmm.
But like it's okay to revisit the shallow end. It's okay to crawl before you walk. It's okay to lay down on the floor like when that's all we could do because we couldn't stand up, you know.
Yeah.
We're rushing to get to the next thing, to acquire something, to learn something. It's like I like being the guide for people or the I don't know, the sounding board of like, it's okay to be in the shallow end. Just because you can swim in the deep end, it's still necessary to come back to the shallow end. And it's like people reclaiming, re-experiencing, like, oh, I have a head, and oh,
Yeah.
I have a body. Like,
Yeah.
wow, I've never felt this before. Oh wow, oh, my elbow's really dry. Oh, I need some lotion. It's like
Yeah.
these are all things we do as kids, but it goes away. Like I think of like I have two kids. You know, I remember I kept a little baby book and writing in their milestones, like found their feet. It's like who says that?
Yeah.
Like no adult is going to be like, I found my foot today. Like
Yes, truly.
until we like lose it. I mean, either physically or metaphorically, we lose our grounding or we quite literally have like lose an appendage. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like come back to the shallow end and like find your feet, find your hands, find your sensation, like be in the present. It's simple, but it's like we've literally forgotten how to do that. So I used to
Yeah.
think it wasn't enough. Like, this is too simple. I have to sugarcoat this, or I've got to package it and sell it in
Mm-hmm.
a different way. But I was like, forget that. Like, I'm just gonna be in the simplicity, and whoever needs it will find it.
That's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, this is perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect way to almost end this. And then I just have one last question for you. Just
Yeah.
in general, for anyone who's watching this or anyone that is seeking the information, like how can people find a dance or movement therapist?
Yeah. Well, so let's start in the United States and then we'll kind
Yeah.
of work our way because
Okay.
we're based in the US. I'm based in
Oh,
the
right.
US.
Yeah.
Um, so if you are listening to this, seeing this, and you are based in the United States and you want to find a dance movement therapist, you can just do a Google search. I will point you to we have the American Dance Therapy Association, adta.org, and they actually have a directory. So you can type in your address, your location, your country, like well, not your country, your state,
Mhm.
and it will pop up a listing of registered or board certified dance movement therapists in your area. Keep in mind, some of us are practicing virtually. So while we might not always be able to cross state lines, even if you're 2 or 3 hours away from that therapist, you may be able to work with them virtually. Um, if you want to become a dance therapist, just for anybody thinking, same thing. I would actually start with the American Dance Therapy Association. They will have all of the information as to like what programs are available, and then you can start from there, right? Say, oh, I live in this area. I'm interested in going to this school. Then I can reach out to that school directly. Again, you can always Google, but there is an association that governs all of that, and that's often a really good place to start. If you are not in the States and you are international, there are other dance therapy organizations, the European Association for Dance Movement Therapy. There's, I'm going to butcher them now, but there's actually quite a few organizations dedicated to it across the globe. So I would type in your country and dance therapy, dance movement therapy. In the UK, it's dance movement psychotherapy, and see what pops up in a Google search, right? Start there. So whether you want to see a dance movement therapist or become one, those are kind of the best places to start. And if that is too difficult or you're not getting what you need, I'm always happy to connect with people. I have a pretty good network around the globe because this is what I do. I love to network with other dance therapists. So if you
Awesome.
really can't find someone, reach out to someone you already know as a dance therapist, and most likely they can connect you to someone.
Oh, great. Nice. That's some great information then. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to have met you again a few weeks back
Yeah.
and that getting to interview you today. This is amazing. Great knowledge, and I'm so excited to share this with everyone.